Hello, and welcome to Muy Criollo. My mission is to introduce people to the beauty of traditional Ecuadorian cooking. For such a small nation, we have an incredibly diverse cuisine. Today, I'm going to be starting with one of the most classic pastries, the Empanada de Viento. This is a very popular snack throughout the country, especially in the capital of Quito. It's fairly easy to make, but takes practice to master. It requires about 2 hours, and the ingredients are cheap and easy to come by. For a full list, check the description below. Let's begin. We'll start with the dough. You're going to need 2 cups of regular all-purpose flour, a heavy pinch of salt, about 3 tablespoons of butter, roughly chopped, as well as the juice of 1 lemon. Now, it's very important to make your own dough fresh for these empanadas. All Ecuadorian empanadas, but these in particular. The butter and lemon juice make the dough very soft, rich, and slightly tangy, and no commercial product is really going to do it justice. Now, don't forget to strain that. Jeez, he's still saying the lemon juice. Do you want this video to be 30 minutes long? Hurry up, dude. Anyway, after you're done with that, add half a cup of water. And then this is just a start. You may find you need to add more water or flour later. Now, let's mix this up. You can use a spoon, but my hands are clean, so I'm just going to go for it. If you have a stand mixer, you can use that, but it's really not necessary. Mix until the butter has melted in and it forms a solid dough. And once you've done that, you can abandon the bowl. Knead and work all that flour in. There should be nothing left in that bowl. Once you've incorporated all the flour and abandoned the bowl, you can really get your knead on. Now, there's a few techniques to this. You can do it on the table. You can do it in your hands. The world is your oyster. I personally find the dough a bit soft to knead effectively on the table. Now, don't be afraid to add flour if your dough is still feeling a little sticky. Kneading dough is honestly one of the finer pleasures in life. It's sort of like a stress ball, but you can eat it. What I'm doing here is I'm rapidly pushing the dough into itself with my thumbs as I rotate it with my hands, which works well for such a soft dough. After a few minutes, it should start to feel like Play-Doh with no lumps. Don't worry if it doesn't firm up. It's going to stay pretty elastic. Alright. There we go. Soft as a baby's bottom. If your partner was a stick of butter. Hey, love is love. It's almost scary soft. In fact, if this is your first time making it, feel free to add just 2 tablespoons of butter, so it's easier to work with. We'll wrap that in plastic now and let it rest. After 15 minutes resting at room temperature, come back to it. Now we'll divide it. A batch made with 2 cups of flour makes 8 empanadas. The perfect amount for an appetizer, snack, or breakfast for the average family. Or just for me. How many calories is that? I don't care. I'm here for a good time, not a long time. Besides, I ate a salad last week, so I'm sure that balances out. We'll cut this up into 8 pieces, and then roll those up into little balls. And then take that plastic wrap and put it over those to keep them from drying out. Next step, rolling. Here's your rolling setup. Have 2 cups of mozzarella, cubed, flour for dusting, a rolling pin, and your dough ready to go. Now, the dough should roll out thin pretty easily, and we want it as thin as possible. Though I will admit this step takes the most practice to master. So let me offer you some tips I learned along the way. Flour the table and the rolling pin only lightly. Flour the top of the dough lightly once before you start rolling. When it sticks to your pin, flip it over. It's better if the stickier side faces down because it holds the dough in place and makes rolling easier. When rolling, put your pin in the center of the circle, roll up, and then put it back in the center and roll down. Center up, center down. Speaking of which, if your dough is not a perfect circle, don't worry, it just has to be close. Now the filling for these empanadas is always going to be cheese. You can shred your cheese for more even melting if you want. Don't overload on the cheese though. These are intended to be a light and airy pastry. I'm only going to be putting 3 pieces of cheese, and that's plenty. When folding, visualize the midpoint of the circle, and place the cheese above it. Seal the edges by pressing them down, and this is very important. Don't press down on the rest of the empanada. The air inside is just as important as the cheese, as we will see. Now, for some old school decorations. The most common way to decorate the rim of the empanada is to take small pieces between your thumb and index finger and fold them back down over the dough. This gives the empanada a Baroque-style braid. Now, take your time when doing this, especially if you're using the version with the full 3 tablespoons of butter in the dough. You'll find that it's a little difficult to do this fast, but the look is worth it. Also, don't make the braid very big. It should be good decoration, but if it's too big, it will weigh the whole pastry down. That looks fine. Now, what to do with this? This isn't a circle. It looks like you rolled out a map of Bulgaria. As long as you can visualize the midpoint though, you can make a great empanada. Some people like to trim to get perfect circles, but I don't think that's necessary. Let's just place the cheese down, and in this case, we can go east to west instead of north to south. Just grab one end of the dough and fold it over, and if you have to stretch it to meet the edges, then you can go ahead and do that. The dough is very flexible, and you'll find that this actually creates a really regular shaped empanada. No one will even be able to notice your attempt at a geography lesson. Perfect. And if there's a little crease in the top of the empanada, don't worry about it. That will disappear when we fry. Alright. Now, that's a beauty. Now, this step isn't, strictly speaking, traditional, but I have found that this little detail makes a huge difference. When you put aside your empanadas, while you finish rolling the rest, brush each one lightly with water. This stops the top from drying out, and allows for greater expansion when we fry, as well as better blistering. Then, cover it with a damp paper towel. Do this for each empanada you make, but make sure you fry them immediately. You'll know your oil is hot when a pinch of flour sizzles immediately. I have 2 cups of vegetable oil here, plenty hot. Leave it on medium-high heat, but turn it down if it starts to smoke. Here's my landing pad, just some paper towels to soak the oil, and my spatula, which I actually do recommend over a spoon, but either is fine. It's time to drop the empanada in the oil. Make sure you place it away from you. And with your spatula, flip the hot oil over the empanada. Now, be very careful. Whatever you do, do not push the spatula back towards you ever. Get into a good rhythm and always push the oil away from you. If you're not confident you can do it fast, turn down the heat to do it slower. But you'll see we're getting very good blistering on top because of earlier. And these really cook very quickly, which is why I only do them one at a time. Look at that. That's ready. Beautiful blistering. That's going to be very flaky. Place it on the paper towel to dry off, and rinse and repeat. And the finished product. Beautiful. Absolutely gorgeous. And you can do different sizes too, if you want. A smaller one, a very small one. They call these cocktail size empanadas sometimes. And for that, I used a piece of dough just this big. And so can you. Just cut the dough into smaller pieces if you want. Or, you can cut it into bigger pieces. Though, it kind of gets some weirdly once you do something this size. It didn't even fit in the pan, actually. Finally, hit them with a generous sprinkling of sugar. That's a big part of what makes them Empanadas de Viento, so don't skip it. The sweet outside with the salty, cheesy inside is a classic flavor. Can't be beat. And there you have it, ready to serve. You know, some things are just too beautiful for words. At a certain point, you can only put them on a plate and have a bite. Make sure you get them while they're hot though. They tend to deflate. Like balloons, which explains the name. Empanada de Viento means wind empanada. It's not the cheesy filling that defines them, but the way they inflate and expand. They really are like little cheese balloons, which is part of what makes this big guy so difficult to get right. The bigger they are, the harder it is for them to come to their full potential. And, by the way, don't stack them like this. I'm only really doing it for show, but you can see how the whole thing just deflated. Time for a look at what's inside. Oh yeah. That's great. That makes everything worth it. Until next time, buen provecho! Thank you for watching my first ever video. If you are watching this in the future, well, it should be easier for you to go ahead and get ingredients. You know, this is a pretty crazy time right now, and, well, at least I have time to do things like this. I've been planning to do a video like this for a very long time, and, well, life gets in the way. But now, life got in the way of everything that was stopping me, I guess, is a way to think about it. I hope you all stay safe. Remember, this is finger food, so wash your hands for 20 seconds before and after you watch this video. And, if you cough, I'm going to need to ask you to turn off your web browser. I included some extra footage of me frying up the empanadas, just so you have more examples of how it should look, and also because it's incredibly satisfying to watch. I hope you agree with me. Something about the rhythm of it, or how they bubble up so beautifully. Well, I'm gonna have a fairly regular upload schedule, I hope, at least while this is all going on. I'm in university, so we're switching to online learning pretty soon, so I will have other things to do besides cook, which is gonna be a drag. But thank you all so much for watching. I hope you're keeping entertained and sane. And maybe, if nothing else, this video can give you an idea of what to do with all this free time that we have. I mean, the ingredients are pretty easy to find, even at the cleaned out supermarkets that we have these days. It should hopefully be easy enough to find flour and cheese and butter. And thinking past the present moment, I hope that these videos serve as a practical guide to spread the awareness of what Ecuadorian cooking is and can be. I know that this is one video, but I hope that there will soon be many more. And I hope that maybe I can convince at least a few of you viewers to try this stuff out at home for your families, friends, or just for yourself. And though these videos are mainly intended for an English-speaking audience, if you're Ecuadorian or your family is from Ecuador and you're living elsewhere, let me know if your recipe is different or if you do it a different way. And I'm always eager to hear about how other people are doing it or how commonly other people might be making these things themselves. Especially for certain dishes that I haven't had as much experience with. Though this is certainly not the case for Empanadas de Viento, which honestly are one of the first things that I ever learned how to cook. So I've been making steady improvements to the recipe for most of my life. Actually, I made a slight change to the recipe even when I was filming this video. So, always improving. Is it time for the big guy? Oh, I think it's time for the big guy. Am I gonna put him in now? Yeah. Yeah, see, this is kind of unwieldy. I've had large form Empanada de Vientos before, but I honestly think you not only need a bigger pan, but you need help. Because when I was doing the braid decoration for this, I had it resting on my entire arm. Well, I'm feeling kind of sleepy, so I'm kicking you all out now. Bye bye!